My name is Brian Jones. We're in Jersey City, New Jersey, where I happened to be standing when I watched the Twin Towers fall for 9/11. This area was very, very heavily affected by that event. Watching this area grow has been amazing, and you see what's here. And that's where the Twin Towers stood. The two buildings in the foreground with the rounded and triangular top, they didn't fall. That's how close those buildings, that's how straight they fell down. But the dust cloud came out here, and even pieces of glass were flying into the water when it came down. And we were all standing out here. And when there's a loud explosion or something, you just kind of go into slow motion. And we're standing out at the edge here, and I started to see all these things. And I used to ride a canoe and a kayak out here all the time. And sometimes you see the fish jumping. So I looked out and I was like, it's so odd that the fish would be jumping now, you know? And then I realized that those were pieces of glass falling away from the tower as it came down. It's like, whoa, time to go. And my wife at the time was in the city and had just gone through World Trade Center. And each and every day, Christina and I, after playing out here, would take the little New York water taxi boat across the canal to World Trade Center. It had a beautiful playground. We played every day there, every single day with a community of people. I was also getting my pilot's license, coincidentally enough. And so I was up in the air flying every day, flying solo, and I'd fly out here and fly around the Statue of Liberty and overfly my building and up the Hudson River, and that was recreational airspace at that time. So I was very much aware of what's going on in the air. So you can imagine standing here after having heard the first one and watching the building burn. We were here when the plane came around for the second impact and accelerated right here and hit the building. And we were actually all standing right out at the tip here, and it was just one of those moments that lasts an eternity. We saw people jumping from the building very clearly from here, many of them, you know, many, more than 50. And that was terrifying. And that made it feel like, holy God, I have to do something. So I ran with a few of the other parents to the preschool where Christina was. And then we all decided not to interrupt the kids' day. So they didn't know it was happening, but it was. And later, so the buildings fell and, you know, all hell broke loose. And they started bringing people over in all available boats. So all these boats in the boat club over here from the building, a lot of them were going back and forth and trying to ferry people over. And these poor people who were brought over were covered in white ash and sometimes bloodied and battered in all different kinds of ways and just lost. So when I did get Christina out of the daycare finally, there were just people wandering around the neighborhood covered in white ash. And she being a baby, she thought they were ghosts. So she started calling them ghosts in Swedish, you know, spöke, spöke. And she's pointing to the people who are kind of wandering around the neighborhood like looking for a glass of water or a phone or something. It was a crazy moment. It felt like the whole country was undergoing something, and then you heard the Pentagon had happened, and the other plane went down. And yeah, it felt like we were under attack, and it was unclear as to where it was going to happen next. And reality changed, and you know, as a black male, 9/10, I was kind of the enemy. 9/12, the crosshairs were off me for the first time in my life. You know, we had identified a new species to uniformly condemn. So it was interesting, and you know, you could feel it even riding in an elevator where on the 10th of September I get in a suit and ladies might clutch their handbag a little closer. Next thing you know, I'm kind of a reassuring presence. Freedom is a scary thing. It's not a state where you do what you want, when you want, anytime you want. Freedom's not walking around with 50 guns and pointing them at each other, but refraining from firing them. Freedom is a negotiated compromise. It's not about me, I'm free, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, with no one telling me not to. That's anarchy, right? And it felt like the idea broke down for about 15 minutes when those towers came down. It felt like this might be it. That might be the end of society as we know it. And boy, were people grabbing their guns in our building. You never know where they're going to be. And that was one of those grab your gun days. I'm not a gun guy, but that was one of those days when you saw a lot of guns on the street, worried for what would happen. Better days than these I've known. Make a little money, get out here on my own. Maybe this one time I can't lose. First you're gonna have to choose freedom